SSPK turns to MAPS. What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the first follow-up video of Tin Invest. I wasn't ever planning on making these kinds of more time-sensitive videos, but I see that I could add way too much value to the Weedmaps community, essentially, and to all future potential investors. Before I go any further, if you haven't watched my first video, which was a complete breakdown explaining the company from head to toe, their business plan, their business strategy, everything you need to know about the company, it's all into the first video. I'm going to put a link somewhere in the little high-tech spot where YouTube will make it pop up there, and I'll also put a link in the comments below. I really recommend you give that video a watch before going any further. So pause now, go watch that, and then we'll get back to this. Like I said, my plan was to only do videos analyzing the qualitative factors of a company and pretty much explain the business structure like you saw in the Weedmaps video before. But I feel like I might be able to provide some added information that's not being talked about, specifically on the risk revolving a ticker change, and I'll explain why I think you should be somewhat fearful before investing just because a ticker changed. I'll also dive into the valuation and explain how I see a common mistake being made by a lot of potential investors where they're assuming that the SSPK market cap is what Weedmaps valuation is. And that's not the case. After that, I'll give my theory about the most recent merger news and explain why exactly I can see the company gain more exposure and pretty much more volume from the recent ticker change, which I could possibly see lead to an increase or a decrease in the price. So the vote was put in at the end of last week, and it went exactly as expected. The approval to merge was voted yes outright. The exact numbers being about 22 million for and 4,000 against. Like I said, outright. So now I'm finally able to talk about this company from the perspective that there is no longer a merger risk. Pretty much, it's a sentence. Like by the time you see this video, you'll probably already see MAPS as the ticker. It's a set in stone that Chris Beals, the CEO of Weedmaps, has even put the $ MAPS in his Twitter bio. So for this video, let's begin with the valuation. One common mistake that I'm seeing being made time and time again is people think that Weedmaps is worth what the SSPK market cap is. And that's simply not true. I mean, think about it. The base valuation when SSPK shares were $10 for the blank check, how it starts off, they valued Weedmaps at $1.5 billion. So saying that the market, like let's say SSPK's market cap right now is like $550 million, saying that Weedmaps is worth $550 million is not true. So now you're wondering, okay, how do we find the correct valuation then? Well, if I'm being honest with you guys, that answer is a little bit harder than I thought. After doing loads of research and even talking to different brokers from Schwab, which, by the way, if you don't already know this or if you're a newer investor, I'd consider switching to Schwab if you're not already with them. And the reason being is because I literally have the ability to call Schwab 24/7 anytime and simply ask a question about what's the difference between a call or a put or whatever I have, maybe making a trade or anything. They literally will help you with anything. I don't get anything from telling you this. I'm just being upfront about what I use and why I use them. Anyways, so after asking many people and looking all over the internet, I came across two methods that seem to give me a pretty good current valuation of Weedmaps. The first of the two methods is by taking the SSPK market cap and then dividing it by 17%. Now, why 17%? No, it's not because I have an obsession with Phillip Rivers and I think he's the best quarterback ever, which, by the way, guys, Phillip Rivers is like the most underrated quarterback ever. Just look at the numbers. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So, and he's also where Nunchepi came from right there, which I'll explain in another episode what it means. So after doing all that, with the current numbers, I came out to a value of about $3.46 billion. The next method I see being used is by simply growing the original $1.5 billion valuation by what the share price has gone up. So I do this by basically dividing, let's say, the $18 share price by the original $10 share price. That gives me how much it went up. and then I multiply that by the $1.5 billion. This method gives you about $2.83 billion. Since I'm not certain which method is really the best or which one's correct, I chose to just take the median of the two and set the current valuation at a little bit over $3 billion. Now, this number makes way more sense than the $500 million number that people are talking about, especially when considering that the original valuation of the company was $1.5 billion and the share price has only gone up so far. But I need it to be absolutely clear that my methods may not be 100% correct at all. I could be completely wrong for all we know. So please do not take what I say as fact, especially because I am not a financial advisor and this is far from financial advice. I'm literally just some guy on the internet, and you should always be cautious and do your own outside research before investing. Because again, guys, I'm still learning each and every day. So if you have a better technique to finding the correct market cap of SPACs, please let me know in the comments below. All right, so we valued it. What next? Why do I think the ticker change will have any effect at all? Well, there's a simple answer to this. Volume. Volume should see an increase. What is the volume? Well, it's pretty much everything. It's the amount of times a stock is bought or sold in a day. Typically, when the volume increases and the stock price increases as well, that's a good indicator for market strength. So what exactly will cause the volume to increase? I get it, the ticker is changing. But what exactly is the reasoning behind the increase in trade for the stock? Well, one of the first reasons is Wall Street Bets, they're finally allowed to talk about the company. Why weren't they before? Well, Wall Street Bets, the forum doesn't allow pre-merger or SPAC companies to be talked about. But once the ticker changes, then they'll have all the freedom to repost, talk about, and hype up the stock. What I'm thinking is, why wouldn't this base of millennial investors want to invest in the well-known cannabis tech software as a service company? The Weedmaps is literally a growth stock. It's a technology company, and it's a prominent name in a brand new industry. In my eyes, it seems like a Wall Street Bets would definitely enjoy hyping up and pumping up this stock. On top of Wall Street Bets, the company is set to gain hype and traction post-ticker once more and more news sources begin talking about them. For instance, imagine they go on and ring the bell, or maybe an interview on CNBC. Or what about when Wall Street Journal or Barron's start posting articles about them? That'll probably gain more traction for the company. But who's to say that these news articles and news postings are reporting positive stuff on the company? For instance, they can go in there and just absolutely destroy the valuation and cause the volume to increase, but in a downward trend. I need you all to realize that nothing at all is guaranteed in this market, and really anything can happen. Among all those reasons, I can see the company gaining more traction, more volume, one other way that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about. All right, let's think about this. Your typical Robinhood investor or beginner investor, if they wanted to invest in weed, what they will type in is weed stocks. Most likely, if they were to go to the Robinhood search bar or Google search bar and type in weed, the first company that's going to pop up is exactly Weedmaps. And on top of that, Weedmaps is a way more popular brand name than, let's say, Canopy Growth or Tilray and whatnot. So why would any new investor want that stock when they can have the more attractive Weedmaps? And remember how we talked about volume earlier in the video? Well, currently, SSPK Weedmaps, they have a volume of about 303,000, while other companies in the cannabis industry, like CGC, for example, they're trading at an average volume of about 3 million. And Tilray, on the other hand, they have an average volume of 25 million. In my eyes, what this shows is the overall potential for future growth and pretty much more exposure for the company is still there. Now, let's talk about some risks involved in investing in a stock post-ticker change or before the ticker change. All right, ready? I'm going to say it. Buy the rumor, sell the news. This has been a trend that I've seen nonstop, especially this last year with SPACs, and even before SPACs, this theory has proven time and time again. For instance, there's normally a ramp up in stock purchase for when a company like, let's say, Apple or Tesla plans to release a new product, or before earnings, and like I mentioned before, after a ticker changes. Now, I myself am not much of a day trader or really into trading on hype and whatnot. This is why I'll most likely not sell a single share, even if I see a boost in the stock price or a crash upon the ticker change. But since my first video on Weedmaps revolved around the business itself, I figured it would be beneficial for my viewers if I made a video more focused on the merger itself. And by the way, guys, if you haven't watched that video, I'm telling you, it is a must watch. Well, everyone, that's all I got for you today. If you liked my quick update video, first off, like the video. And second off, let me know in the comments below. That way I continue making these follow-up videos for companies I talk about. And if you enjoyed this, please, can you guys subscribe to my page? You have no idea how much it means to me and how much it helps. And honestly, when I see my subscribers go up from one number to another, it just makes this all pretty much worth it. Well, that's all I got for you today. Always remember, guys, the time is now.